the best way to describe him is that he is just a flat-out winner. And now you look at his career right now, 2 Super Bowl appearances, just got this Super Bowl victory, a Super Bowl MVP, was a runner-up to the MVP award in the regular season 2 years ago. Everything the guy touches turns to gold in terms of winning. And it's not just in the NFL. He's been in the playoffs all 4 years that he's been a starter for the Eagles here as well. But even go back to college. Like, this is a guy that, as a true freshman in Alabama, led them to the national title game. In his second year, got them back to the national title game and gets benched at halftime. Tua comes in, right, throws that walk-off touchdown, and he doesn't leave. Stays there at Alabama, plays behind Tua, backs him up. Tua gets hurt in the SEC title game. Alabama needs a win against Georgia, get into the playoff. And who comes off the bench to lead 2 big scoring drives to have Alabama beat Georgia? Jalen Hurts. Goes to Oklahoma, leads them to the college football playoff. Like, everywhere this guy goes, he's a winner. And I brought up that Alabama story and that part of, right, of staying in Alabama, being behind Tua, coming off the bench to win, to highlight what I'm about to say, because I think this is one of the biggest reasons why the Eagles won the Super Bowl tonight. Jalen Hurts is not only a winner, he is one of the most selfless athletes we've ever seen. Again, this was a guy who lost his job at halftime of the national championship game. Didn't pout, didn't make it about him, didn't transfer and leave. And when his team needed him the most, almost a year after getting benched in the biggest game of his career, he comes in and helps Alabama win. Then goes back to the bench for the playoff as Tua comes back for those playoff games. Doesn't complain. Then just picks up, says, I got to get better, goes to Oklahoma, leads them to the college football playoff. Then goes to the NFL, drafted in a surprise, right, to the Eagles, where, hey, they don't really need a quarterback. Why they drafted Jalen Hurts so early? Came in to back up Carson Wentz, was used sparingly early on. It's an ugly divorce. Eagles move on from Wentz, and now it's Jalen Hurts' team, thrust in the spotlight. What does he do? Goes to the playoffs, goes to the Super Bowl, goes to the playoffs, and now wins the Super Bowl. The guy wins, but does so also by putting the team first. Doesn't make it about himself. And why the Eagles were able to win the Super Bowl and why Jalen Hurts' selflessness was a big reason for their Super Bowl win was look at how the Eagles were this year. Right? We talked about the MVP runner-up 2 years ago. When they got to the Super Bowl, Hurts, outside of that one drop that led to a touchdown on that fumble, played a great game against the Chiefs. Great game. 35 points. Was on fire throwing the football. Again, he was an MVP runner-up 2 years ago, mostly because the Eagles offense was centered around Jalen Hurts, throwing the ball and running the ball. This year, the Eagles offense was centered around Saquon Barkley, who came in, right, broke the single-season rushing record for most rushing yards in a season, regular season and postseason combined. He had 2,504 yards. But with Saquon's ability to be so great and take over a game running the ball, that meant less touches for Jalen Hurts. Less ability to show off his skill. Less ability to accumulate stats that we saw him do just 2 years ago at an elite level. You know, if he wanted to win an MVP award, they could have built the offense around him. And so you bring in Barkley, everybody else takes a step back, and there's no complaining. The offense didn't skip a beat. The offense got better, more consistent. Again, there were questions all season long about Jalen Hurts and his passing ability. Why don't the Eagles throw the ball more? Do they trust him? Like, what's going on here? A.J. Brown's freaking out on the sideline. He wants the ball more. Like, there were a lot of questions, and it wasn't like this Eagles season was perfect. You know, 2 years ago, right, that Eagles season was perfect. They started off on fire. They never really faced any adversity until they got to the Super Bowl. This year started off as bad as it could be. 2-2 seemed like a carryover from last year, in which that team just looked so disinterested, so discombobulated. And so Hurts is getting the ball less. The team is struggling. And instead, he just went about his business, put the team first, knew, look, our best chance for success is giving Saquon the ball early and often. He took a back seat. And it's like, this is like what he wanted. He made no bones about it. He was fine with it. That selflessness is why the Eagles are here today. You know, not every quarterback is okay with taking less numbers, taking less stats in order to promote winning. You know, we heard Cam Newton a few weeks ago say he would rather keep his MVP trophy than trade it in for a Super Bowl ring. That's a guy that was about me. And in the biggest game we saw, he made it about himself. Some quarterbacks want numbers, want stats, want the individual adulation, I should say, and acknowledgement. They want the MVP acknowledgement. And if it comes at the expense of winning games and winning a Super Bowl, so be it. Not Jalen Hurts. Took a step back here, had the Eagles offense go through. Barkley sat there as questions were being talked about with him and his ability. Never fought back against the media, never put anything in the headlines about how unhappy he was. He just went to work. And when the Eagles called on him, just again, like at Alabama, as he's behind Tua, and when Alabama called on him when Tua got hurt in the SEC title game, he came in, led a few second half touchdown drives to win that game and get Alabama into the playoff. Just like that, when the Eagles needed Hurts to throw the football this year, whether it was a game like the Steelers game, when the run game was not chugging along, was kind of hit a roadblock. Tonight, when Saquon Barkley has just 57 yards, when the Eagles have one of their worst games in terms of yards per carry average, and they need Hurts to make a few throws, what does the guy do? Step up, make the throws. No problem. You got it. The guy's a winner. The guy is selfless. And so when you look at quarterbacks around the league like Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, in no order, I think right now those are like the only four quarterbacks you can truly sit here and say are right now better than Jalen Hurts. And again, it's not like Jalen Hurts is a regular season quarterback. The guy is now money in the postseason. 2 Super Bowl games, which he's played outstanding. For the most part, mistake-free, smart, efficient football. He's been solid in the playoffs. He is everything you want in your quarterback and more. He's a leader. He's a winner. He's selfless.